Are you ready to find out the key differences between being a virtual assistant in a virtual assistant agency, and running your own virtual assistant agency? Now, in this video, I'm going to dive through the key differences between the three types of virtual assistants that you might be curious about going into or that you might be considering hiring, and how those differences basically will shift depending on where you are at as well. And this is from someone who has run an executive assistant agency the last 6 years, where we hire, manage, and train executive assistants for a lot of our clients, and how I also see applicants as they come in and apply to the company, and the differences between the three. Now, the first key thing is income. Now, between the three, when you are a freelance virtual assistant, when it comes to income, it is 100% yours, but it's not consistent, because some clients, you will have to be the one to chase them. You have to make sure that they are actually on time when it comes to paying. And essentially, it also depends on the kind of virtual assistant that you are. If you are truly freelance, if you have a couple of projects, if you are just one-on-one with one client. So it'll shift depending on the kind of virtual assistant you've become. But that is the first thing. It's like, yes, as a virtual assistant, income is 100% yours, but it also means 100% of the cost is yours when it comes to any online tools that you might have had to subscribe to, any other costs, or your taxes, everything else. It is all up to you, both on the income side and the expenses side. Now, if you become a virtual assistant for a virtual assistant agency like mine, you are more stable when it comes to your income, but of course, there's going to be costs. So let's say that the virtual assistant agency you're working for is charging this much. You're only getting a portion of that because there's going to be other overhead pay that the agency basically has to take care of. So for example, for us, we have different types of managers for the clients, and then for the assistant themselves, we have, of course, the costs of maintaining the whole agency. When it comes to the bookkeeper, for marketing team, for whoever it is that we need to keep the company going, to keep clients coming in, and to also chase those clients, it's going to be on us as the agency. But then for the virtual assistant, oftentimes, whether or not you have a client or not, you will still have an income, a stable income of whatever that looks like for between you and the agency, what you guys have agreed on. That's essentially part of that. When it comes to the costs, like I said, most of the costs is shouldered by the agency. Most of the time, depending on the company you work for, there might be benefits. Like for us, we have like tech allowance, we have an internet allowance, we have, if your laptop breaks, we're able to replace it for you. So a lot of the other costs, basically, or the other risks of being a virtual assistant is taken on by the virtual assistant agency. Now, for you, if you start your own virtual assistant agency, you do have higher earning potential, because now you're on the flip side of it, right? You're the one charging clients a little bit of a higher price, just because you're the one in charge of recruiting, hiring, managing, and making sure that these people stay on in the long term. So you do have a higher income potential. But again, kind of a little bit the same way if you were just doing this freelance on your own, is you do shoulder a lot of the costs yourself. And the bigger thing here is, most of the time, virtual assistant agencies don't really have a high margin, because a lot of the time you're making sure that if emergencies come up, if in the last quarter here in the Philippines, we get hit by an earthquake, 2 typhoons, power outages, internet outages, and that is all on us. So again, if you are thinking of your own agency, that's just the main thing to think about income, is that it's kind of a mix of being a virtual assistant freelancer, but on higher stakes, because you're making sure everyone else is also managed and taken care of. Now, when it comes to client acquisition, the key thing on there is, when you are a freelance virtual assistant, a lot of that is going to be on you. It's you building your branding, it's you building your referral system, it's you building everything else that goes into getting a client for you. Again, whether you're doing project-based or part-time or full-time, it's all on you. When you work with a virtual assistant agency, a client is typically assigned to you. That's usually the reason why they're hiring, or why most virtual assistant agencies are constantly hiring, is they're looking for someone to match with the current client they already have. Now, for you, if you are going to do the route of running or having your own virtual assistant agency, it will get to the point where it's not that you're marketing yourself, but you're marketing your business. So for me, I constantly talk about my business. I'm always marketing a lot of the systems and a lot of the ways that we've been able to grow, versus just marketing myself, because I'm not marketing myself as the virtual assistant doing the work. I'm marketing that, hey, I'm able to show up this way because my virtual assistant agency works. I am freed up to do a lot of the work that I don't have to do, and I can do the same way basically within your business. So I'm essentially the product of what I'm marketing within my business. So there's a little bit of, I guess, a little bit of separation. And then again, you have, eventually, you'll have a sales and marketing team to back you up, to support you, to, process the rest of the thing. You're not the one doing everything yourself. You just are the one talking and building the business as well. Next up is on the flexibility side. Usually, depending again on the client, when you are a freelance VA, you do have flexibility. You can choose the kind of client, the kind of time zone you want to work in, if it is going to be a straight 8-hour shift, or if it's more just an open as long as you get the work done. So the flexibility here is a little bit of a choose your own adventure. Now, when you're working with a virtual assistant agency, there might already be a set schedule of working with the client. Again, some clients are very open to just having their assistant have their own kind of time, but a lot of the time when you're entering into this kind of work, you already have a set schedule, you have reports, you have different things that you will have to do to continuously do the work. Now, when you are a virtual assistant agency owner, you do have a little bit of a freer time, but you take on the full responsibility. So for example, for me, I do work about an average of like 10 to 20 hours a week, but in those 10 to 20 hours a week that I work, I will be on strategy, I'll be on operations, I'll be on making sure our clients are taken care of. I'm checking in with our success managers for both the clients and the EAs to make sure they're supported and taken care of. So there's a little bit of a bigger scope of what you can do in some of the time, and there are gonna be weeks where I will work 50, 60 hours a week. So it's not always consistent that I'm working 10 to 20 hours, because there are going to be times where I will have to buckle down, sit, get through whatever issue or whatever new project that we might be working on just to get it over the finish line. So there is a little bit, yes, again, freedom. You can choose your schedule. You can have different people work different times. You're not the one, always, in the client's face. There's other people taking care and working with the client, but there's also just more responsibility that everything is on you. And speaking of, the next thing is on the responsibility side is when you are a freelance virtual assistant, you basically wear all the hats. You're a little bit of solo. I know a few freelance virtual assistants where they're kind of an everything assistant to their client, which I hate as a term, by the way. You should never be an everything assistant to your client. There should be a clarity on what that actually should look like. But essentially for her, she has to manage everything else within her client. And if you are working with a virtual assistant agency, when it comes to the responsibility side, your main focus should just be on the output and the tasks that the client needs to get done with you. You're just on the service delivery. When it comes to actually communicating with the client or taking care of the client, a lot of that is on like the agency side of the client success manager. You're there to show up and make sure that you show up in the best way. So then for the client, they're happy to keep paying, to keep working with the agency and working with you. Now, when you're a virtual assistant agency owner, you're in charge of the systems, you're in charge of the people, you're in charge of the results. Yes, you will get to the point where you have people managing your people, but it's still down to you when it comes to how successful the business could be or where the business is at. Now, I take a lot of that on my shoulders when it comes to making sure that the business is running the way that it should be and everyone feels, again, that support and being taken care of. So a lot of that is on me as the virtual assistant owner. Now, when it comes to support and training, when you are a freelance virtual assistant, a lot of that is a little bit of self-taught. It's the YouTube university of it all, or sometimes, often, is your client basically gives you the training that you can go through, especially when you're having to learn their systems, their tools, the skills basically that they need you to upgrade on. So it's a little bit of a mix of the two of, again, having to figure out how to study, how to upskill yourself, and maybe at the same time, your client will also provide you with courses to study. Next is when you're a virtual assistant under an agency, a lot of the time, all of the training is included. Like for us, we buy the courses, we've hired consultants to teach classes, they are given books essentially. At one point in the business, we were giving out Kindles when they've reached like 6 months in the business. So there is a little bit of more just support when it comes to your growth and your training. A lot of the time you will have a manager who's training you on a skill or learning a skill with you so they can check your work. Whatever that looks like, you basically have a little bit of a better support. Now, when you are a manager of a virtual assistant agency, it's kind of, again, it's flipping that script of you're the one providing the system, the training, the support for your team, making sure they're upskilling. And since you're, as in this case, you're the business owner, a lot of your own upskilling and training is coming from other successful people. people. So it's kind of, again, it's a little bit of an elevated way from being a freelance virtual assistant to now owning a virtual assistant agency. That pathway, what that looks like is, yes, you're still learning and upskilling yourself, but in a higher level from a business owner point of view. Next is on the stability side of it. When you are a virtual assistant, freelancer virtual assistant, you have a little bit more of a inconsistency depending again on the client. Like a client tomorrow, a client that you've had for like the last like 3 years could just leave just because their business changed, their life changed, something else out of your own control, and cause them basically to want to stop working with you. And versus if you're working with a virtual assistant agency, even if you lose a client, a lot of the time they'll start looking for another client for you. There might be another one already in reserve, or that if that client leaves, that also leaves an opening for you to be able to branch out and do other things within the agency as well. But when you are a virtual assistant agency owner, you are really dependent on the stability of your systems and how you grow. A lot of the time I've seen virtual assistant agencies where they got like 10 clients tomorrow, but their systems, their processes weren't enough to be able to handle that kind of growth. And that tends to destabilize, of course, anything. So you have to keep that in mind, is a lot of your focus as a virtual assistant owner is really more on those systems, those processes, so things can keep going and growing. Next thing is on the brand and recognition side. When you're a virtual assistant freelancer, it's really just focused on what you can do, how you do it, how you've gotten all these references, how you've gotten all of these recommendations. When you're working with a virtual assistant agency, when you're a virtual assistant underneath them, it's mostly going to be just focused on, of course, the brand of the agency, the kind of delivery, the kind of systems, the kind of processes. And then when you are a VA agency owner, then it's really a foundation. Again, it's kind of a combination of you as a founder and also the business itself. So similar to what I said earlier when it comes to client acquisition, is that you are building more than just your own brand. You're building your brand as well as a business owner and building up the brand of the business itself. And finally, when it comes to growth path or how much you can grow, when you are a freelance virtual assistant, a lot of the time a very natural way that you go into it is you either niche down and become a specialist so you can charge higher, or you basically just slowly raise your rates with the same client that you've had for a while. Now, if you are working in a freelance virtual assistant agency, typically there's a pathway where you get raises every couple of months depending on if your responsibilities with your client has changed. And there's also, of course, the opportunity to join the internal team of the agency later on. If you lose a client and you've been there long enough that they want to work with you directly within the leadership team, whatever that looks like. And when you are a virtual assistant agency owner, then your growth basically really depends on, again, those systems and the team that you've built around yourself. And you can also scale with multiple clients. It's easier for you to have 10 clients as a virtual assistant agency versus being a freelance VA. And of course, if you're just working as someone inside of an agency, it's easier to kind of scale. You can have different offers, and that basically, again, varies depending on how far you do want to grow and have the business. Now, as you can see, it really depends on your own goals, where you're at, what you're comfortable with. There are people who are really great and amazing at being a VA freelancer, and that's their path basically. And there are people who are perfect when it comes to working within an agency because there's a few things that they can always rely on, and they basically already have clients that they can just work with and keep happy. Versus when you are a virtual assistant agency owner, you are more really, that's you owning a business. You're owning not the work to make sure that the work gets done, but you're owning the systems, and you're working with hopefully amazing people to keep growing the business. So again, depending on your goal, where you're at, where you do want to go, there's not really a bad or evil path. And if you are a business owner and you're trying to consider, should I just hire a freelance VA or someone who is within an agency, those are also factors that you can start seeing and understanding as you're going through this whole path and journey. Now, if you guys like this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button right there. Comment below any questions you might have when it comes to either being a freelance VA or being a business owner. And if you still haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of my videos every Sunday on how to work from home, especially with AI. And if you are a business owner yourself, you can check out my second channel right here, and you can check out my latest video right here. Hope you guys have an amazing day, and remember that small steps matters, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!